Welcome to Fuller Expectations, the podcast for anyone who feels that the path that they're on just isn't what they want, need, or quite frankly, where they expected to be at this stage in their life. I'm Carrie Fuller, your host, and I am so excited that you took the time to listen today. If you're here because someone shared this with you, that means that they care about you and think that this episode might be meaningful to you. No matter why you're here, thanks so much for taking the time to spend with us today. And if you're new to the Fuller Expectations podcast family, thanks so much for joining us. Every week, we're going to have real conversations, share inspiring stories, and offer you the support that you need to create a life that feels aligned with your goals, your passion, and your purpose. A life that's just truly, authentically yours. If you're interested in better, you are in the right place. We all deserve to live a life that offers us true joy, no matter what age or stage we're in. And if you like what you've heard today and thought of someone who might benefit, please share this episode with them. And if you haven't already, hit follow so that our podcast can appear in your podcast library. Every week we launch a new episode and we don't want you to miss it. And now let's get right into today's episode.
Hello, Fuller Expectation podcast family. I'm Heather, and today we're going to do something a little different on the podcast. I'm in the host seat, guiding the conversation with Carrie. Carrie's my older sister, so she has a little bit more life experience than I do. So today we are chatting about something that everyone can learn from, and that is the importance of knowing your worth and advocating for the changes you need in your life. Carrie has reinvented herself more than once in her career, in relationships, and in her personal life, each time choosing growth over comfort. And today she's sharing how you can recognize when something in your life no longer fits and what really means to choose yourself.
Yay! I love this topic. Thanks, Heather. This is close to my heart because I've had to learn the hard way in both my personal life and my professional life that you really do have to be your own advocate. You are your best advocate. So your future self depends on you to stop settling for things in life. So stop settling for the job that you don't love. Stop settling for the friendships or the relationships that are no longer serving you. So we're going to talk a little bit about both of those things tonight.
Can you share with us what you hope listeners will take from this episode and how it might help improve situations they may be facing in their own lives?
Yeah, so I hope that listeners will recognize the things in their lives that maybe if they just adjusted things a little bit, that might just change everything. And when you see signs, we all know what signs are. We have intuition. We know when things aren't right. My hope is that after this conversation, you learn that it's okay to address the signs that you see and to make changes accordingly. So I also hope that people learn that fine isn't good enough. So you deserve better than fine. And if everything in your life or certain things in your life are just fine, they should be great. So I hope that people will learn today after listening that they can address things that are fine just to make them better than that and to live a better life because of that. And when it comes to work, we're going to talk a lot about work. I've managed people and teams for a long time, and it took me a while to know my worth when it came to my job and to know that managers value good people. So if you're a good person, you do a good job at work, know that people value you. So if they're valuing you, it's important also that you know how to value yourself. So I'm hoping that people will take that from our conversation today as well.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. You've talked a little bit about moments where you knew life needed to change, whether in your career or your relationships. What did that realization feel like for you?
That realization for me felt scary. It felt uncertain. It was confusing. It was intimidating, made me feel insecure. And I think that if people get a little taste of things being better, that's the fuel that you need to change everything. So in the beginning for me, and I can use an example of a really bad relationship that I was in. A lot of people might not know that. A couple of my close friends know that, but I was in a very, very bad relationship that was physically just bad. And I didn't have the confidence to move on. I was scared. I was very unsure. I was very insecure because if people have experienced these kinds of relationships, they know what that insecurity is like that I'm talking about. There's people that make you feel that way. They want you to feel that way because they want to keep you where you are. So knowing that all of those feelings are completely normal is something that just might change everything for you. So recognizing that it's okay to feel stuck, it's okay to feel overlooked and undervalued and afraid to make the changes, but recognizing those things is the most important part of it all. And if you take a little step and have a taste of what better feels like, it will fuel you to make the changes that you need to make in your life to live better, to be safer, to be in a better place.
Absolutely.
Self-worth is not necessarily loud. It's a quiet internal alignment. So recognizing and understanding that your body and your mind will whisper before they scream. So if your body and mind are whispering about something, that quiet knowing, that gut feeling that things have to change, there's always a whisper before the scream. So recognize that. I think that's one of the most important things is that when you're in a point where you know your life needs to change and you keep hearing that whisper, knowing and planning for the changes that you have to make before it becomes a scream, I think is really important.
Absolutely. And thinking about self-worth as a skill that you build, not something that you already have, people think knowing your worth is innate. You either have confidence or you don't, but you always say this is something you build. How do you build yours?
I definitely think that self-confidence is something that can be built. I think it comes through experience. I think it comes from being in situations where you have to rely on yourself and advocate for yourself and know that you can do better. It's trial and error. For me, I knew that I had to take care of me. Nobody else was taking care of me. So as you go through things with your job or things with your personal life, it comes with time and it comes with the experience of changes happening. Sometimes you're forced into change. Sometimes you make the decision to make a change. But the more you value yourself and know that you are valuable to other people, that will help build the confidence to make changes and to make hard decisions. So one thing that's important for people to know is that I'm going to use the example of work. If you show up for work, if you do a great job, if you're dependable, if you take things on that fall outside of your scope of your job, you are valuable. Sometimes people, maybe they don't have the manager that gives the praise or anything like that, but I can tell you as a manager of people, I don't want my people to think that I don't value them. They do an amazing job. I will always advocate for them. And I think that one thing people don't realize when it comes to work too is that it costs money to replace people. So if you are there, you show up, you do a great job, and you want advancement in your career or you want to take on different responsibilities, don't be afraid to ask for that. I think that if you go to the person that manages you and you talk about what's important to you, and the things that you need to have better work-life balance, or if you want to take a look at your compensation, everyone should know that they have the right to ask for what their salary range is, to know where they fall within the range, to ask questions about what do they need to change or do different in order to climb up that range. Those are conversations it's okay to have.
And thinking about self-worth as a skill you build, not something that you already have, people think knowing your worth is innate. You either have confidence or you don't, but you always say that is something you build. How do you build your confidence?
I think confidence comes over time and it comes with being more experienced. I know that I definitely, when I was younger, I did not value myself and I didn't have the confidence that I have today. And I think that it comes with time. But it also comes when I know I show up every day for work. I do the very best job that I can. I am dependable, I'm reliable. I do things outside of the scope of my job because for me, I see that success is not just dependent on me, it's dependent on a bigger picture. So I want to contribute to that. In order to know your self-worth and to feel confident in yourself, you have to show up. You have to give it your best. You have to know that you're valuable to other people, and that comes by bringing your A game. You have to be clear in the value of yourself and what you bring to the table, and realize that being needed is not the same thing as being valued. Those are two different things. Being needed is, I would think of that as the bottom, like the threshold. But being valued is so much higher up on the ladder than the threshold, and you want to be valued. So that comes through being your best person, bringing the best version of yourself into everything that you do. And also deciding that people will appreciate that, and people will be willing to sit down and have conversations with you about what you want for your future. You can sit with your boss. You can talk about your compensation. You can talk about your benefits. You can talk about your career growth. I think one thing that's important for people to know that managers want to keep good people happy. So for me, I've managed teams for years. If my people are good, I want to make them happy because they make my job easier. So I don't think a lot of people maybe recognize that, especially early on in their careers. But the more years you put in, I think the more recognizable that becomes. The stage that we're at in our lives now, we should be feeling the most confident. Midlife, you should feel the most confident because you have all of those years of experience that you have, that's taken you to where you are. So if you are not confident and don't value yourself, I think stopping and looking around you and trying to figure out why that is. Because now more than ever, at this point in our lives, there should be clarity about the value and about what we bring to the table, both in our professional life and in our personal life. So if that's not there, recognizing why that's not there and doing something about it, I think is really, really important.
I love that, and I couldn't agree with you more on that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how to recognize when something no longer fits. What are the signs people ignore when something in their life no longer aligns with who they're becoming?
That's a great question. So I think that some of the signs that people might ignore when things don't feel aligned in their life is that you feel consistently drained instead of feeling energized. If you are constantly feeling drained, you have to stop and look at what might be causing that, because that's not normal. You should feel energized. If you shrink your personality to keep the peace, and an example of that is, say, in your personal life, if you are not doing the things that you want to do or not acting like the person that you want to be in order to keep somebody else happy, that is a sign that you should not ignore, because that is something in your life that's not aligned with who you are. Another example, so if you stop dreaming about things in your life that you want or goals that you want to achieve because survival takes all of your energy, that's a sign that you should not ignore. If you are anxious on Sunday nights about the work week ahead, we call it Don't Monday My Sunday. Right?
We do.
Right? If you're
We sure
feeling
do.
like people, yeah, I always say that. Don't Monday my Sunday. If you're feeling anxious on Sunday nights about the work week ahead, why are you feeling anxious? I feel fortunate because I love my job. So I wish everybody loved their job. I can't imagine going to work every day and not loving my job, because you're there most days of the week, right? So if you feel anxious on your Sunday nights, stop ignoring that feeling. So if your body feels the truth long before your mind admits it, listen to your body. Our bodies are telling us something. So if you feel in your body things, but your head hasn't caught up with that, that is something to pay attention to. That is not aligned with who you need to be. Another thing is, so it's constantly rationalizing why you should stay in a relationship or in a job. If you're making up reasons all the time or whatever it is, If you're rationalizing why you should stay in something, you have to pay attention to that. Why are you rationalizing? You should never rationalize staying in a relationship or in a job or in anything, quite honestly. If you feel quiet grief for the version of you that's slipping away, like if you miss who you used to be, if you feel like the better days are behind you instead of in front of you, that's a problem. That's a sign that you should not ignore. And that's telling you that you are not in line with who you need to be. So those are just some examples.
You've had to negotiate, leave jobs and relationships, and ask for what you deserve. How do you advocate for yourself without drowning in guilt?
So, knowing that guilt is normal, but staying small is optional. If you're in a job or a relationship that you know is not going anywhere, it's not taking you to where you want to be, feeling guilty about that is completely normal, but staying is optional. So, never ever stay in a job or a relationship because you feel guilty, because it's a normal feeling, but being unhappy and staying in a position where you're being held back from being happy and being the best version of yourself, we all deserve better. And every one of us knows that person, right? We know the person who hates their job, but they don't do anything about it because they're afraid of change, or they don't want to take a chance on themselves. I can tell you every single time I have taken a chance on myself when it comes to my work, it's always been for the best. I always end up in a better place than where I was. So feeling bad about it is a normal feeling. That should not keep you where you are. Also, advocating for yourself is not being confrontational. It's offering clarity. Nobody else is going to advocate for you. Understand that it's not confrontational. It's totally fine. And you know what? I respect the people that advocate for themselves. I have over the years teams of people reporting to me. The people that advocate for themselves, I actually respect that. And I think that more people should know that their managers would probably have a lot of respect for them if they spoke up about things. And also, when it comes to relationships, advocating for yourself, you have to do that. Those are your boundaries. That's telling other people how you want to be treated. So remember that when you stick up for yourself and you're strong about the way that you feel, that's a positive thing. That's not a negative thing. Also, knowing that your needs are not inconveniences. So if there's anybody that's making you feel like what you're saying you need is an inconvenience to them, that is not your person. You should never feel like that. So if anyone's making you feel that way, that's not a good thing. When you ask for what you need, you are teaching other people how to treat you. So it's the whole advocacy, knowing your worth, understanding that feeling guilty is totally normal, but that should not keep you where you are. And I think the biggest thing is when you ask for what you need and when you advocate yourself, you are truly teaching people how to treat you. Knowing that if this isn't working for you, that's okay. Life is a series of seasons or chapters, and what you were, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, that doesn't mean that that's who you have to be now and that's who you have to be in the future.
We all know that change is hard. Oftentimes, people stay in the same place because they are so afraid of change. You've said that change is hard, but staying in the wrong place is harder. Can you talk a little about this and also what happens when someone finally chooses themselves?
Yeah, so change is definitely hard. I think that when we look at some of the big companies, they pay millions of dollars on things like change management, bringing in professionals to help them through change. So if companies are investing in it, you know that it's something that is really necessary in order for things to be aligned for growth. And I think that if you think of yourself in the same way, change is inevitable. We're changing all the time. And there's different levels of change. So sometimes it might be moving into a new house, or sometimes it might be getting a new job. It might be a new friendship or ending a friendship or marriages. Sometimes we're getting married or we're ending a marriage. What I think people need to understand is that change is inevitable. It happens in people's lives, it happens in companies, and it's what has allowed the growth in the world. So when we think about like Blockbuster Video, they didn't change, right? They had the opportunity to purchase Netflix and they did not do it because they didn't want to change. They thought their business model was fine. And look at where that is today. That's like one example. So I think for people, honestly, to know that you feel peace before you feel clarity when it comes to change. Opportunities will appear where they were hidden before. If you open yourself up to change, opportunities appear where you could not see them before. I think change allows you to reconnect with your true identity. We all know that 55-year-old Carrie is way different than 25-year-old Carrie. Change is what allows you to grow and to develop and to live a better life. Your confidence grows when you honor what you want. What I mean by that is when you take a chance on yourself and make a change in your life, it's like what I was talking about before. When you get a taste of that little win, it helps you build your confidence in order to keep on doing that same thing. Don't be afraid of making changes in your life, I guess is the point of that. So you meet a version of yourself that you were meant to become. I mean, I'm one person that feels everything happens for a reason. I feel like there's been a lot of mistakes in my life, but looking back on it, I honestly wouldn't change a thing because certain things that happened in my life might not have happened or might not have allowed me certain opportunities that ended up coming to me if I didn't experience those things. So even the bad things that we go through, if we try to have the perspective of what did I learn from that? What did that offer me that I will use again one day, even if I didn't realize it at the time. Everything you do in your life, it gives you a skill that you are going to use someday in the future that you might not know now. But then when you see it, you're like, oh, that's why that happened. So just have confidence in the fact that everything you're going through right now is preparing you for the future you.
I like that. And I also want to add in that everything that's happened to you, all your life experiences have molded you into the person that you are right now. So even if one little thing is different, your whole life would be very different from what it is now.
Exactly. And sometimes when you're in it, you don't see it, but down the road, whatever you're learning is going to benefit you. You have to let yourself take those things in, let yourself, whatever it is that you're doing today, first of all, do the best job you can, be the best at whatever it is that you're doing, knowing that you're building your little toolbox for your future. And at some point, you're going to use whatever that is. You might not know it now, but you will.
I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
If somebody listening right now knows they need to be a better advocate for themselves, what do you think the first step is that they should take?
I think the first step is trusting yourself, and self-trust is a muscle that you have to build. It takes time to build that muscle, but you have to trust yourself. Knowing also that boundaries are important and understanding how you can set boundaries. Like what can be a little boundary that you set? Those boundaries, again, teach people how to treat you. That's all a part of advocating for yourself. And also what your body tells you, you have to listen to that. So some daily practices that people can do, maybe writing things down. I went through a really hard time in my life that I made very difficult decisions in my personal life. And every day I would journal. I just wrote things down. And when I felt like maybe I was making a mistake, or maybe I was being mean, or maybe I making the wrong decision, I went back and looked at the things that I wrote down, and that was my fuel. Like that literally reminded me of everything that I felt. I knew again why things were going exactly in the direction that I was walking them in, because that had to happen. But if I didn't write all that down as a reminder for myself, I may have gotten weak and caved and not trusted myself, but I did not. because I wrote everything down. I think also reclaiming your voice, not being afraid to say what is inside of you to the other person. Don't be afraid of how they're going to react to it. Don't keep it inside. Stress, especially in midlife, is so unhealthy. It causes major illnesses in your body. Don't keep that inside. Let it out. So reclaim your voice. I think those are some really important steps that people can take if they need to advocate for themselves.
I totally agree with you. And I just recently, as I'm getting older, have been a little bit more proactive with advocating for myself. And I do it and I feel good when it's done. And I have a little bit more confidence. And I feel like people do end up respecting me more for it in the long run, even though when you're first setting those boundaries and standing up for yourself, it's a little difficult. In the end, you feel good and it's worth it. And people absolutely end up respecting you more for it.
I think that's exactly right. And that's when we were talking earlier, and I said that it's the little win. Those little wins are like gasoline in your car. They fuel you. So allow yourself the little wins. And that's exactly how you do it. You just put yourself out there, advocate for yourself. It's exactly what you said. You feel good, and that gives you the fuel to keep doing it.
Absolutely.
So I think if listeners take one thing from this episode, it's understanding that you are not meant to shrink. You are not meant to settle, and you absolutely deserve a life that meets you at your level of growth. Your worth is not something you earn. It's something that you honor. So all of the things that we talked about, giving yourself the little wins, that's the fuel for you to keep going. Understand that there are things that just aren't meant for you anymore, and that's okay. You have to separate emotion from decisions. And don't be afraid to use statements that begin with the word I, like I need this, I want that.
And also, no is a complete sentence. Don't forget that.
Oh my God, no is a complete sentence. I love that one. And also, you don't have to answer people right away. You don't have to respond to people right away. I think it's important to pause. Taking a pause is totally okay. That's both in your personal life and in your professional life. And that's one thing that I really had to work on. I always felt like when somebody emails me, oh my God, I have to answer them right away. And
I'm
if
the
I
same way.
paused, I may have said things a little different. So learn to pause. And I love what you said. No is a complete sentence. That's right.
That's right. Yeah. It's just no.
No is no.
No is no. Thank you, Carrie. It's been really fun turning the tables and chatting with you. And if you're listening to this podcast and standing at a crossroads in your life, maybe this episode is the nudge you needed to take the steps in the right direction. You're allowed to choose yourself.
That's right. So if you have to leave a relationship that no longer feels aligned or walk away from a professional environment that just doesn't match your values or the vision for your life, it's okay to do that. So understanding what steps to take first, writing things down, and not being afraid to stand up for yourself, whether it's having conversations with people at work or having conversations with people in your house or in your life. You come first. Ching! Heather, thank you so much for being a little co-host with me on this episode. It was really fun.
It was fun. I had fun. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, more to come for sure.
Thanks for listening today. If this episode sparked something in you, please share it with a friend, leave a comment or a review, and reach out and let me know what resonated. Remember, no matter what age or stage of life you're in, you can pivot. And always remember, the second half of life is not a winding down. It's a waking up. Please follow or subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our podcast family. Let's keep showing up and being the best version of ourselves. Until next time, take care.